So you deploy, you get out there and start finding out what the market is for you when it comes to actual execution. Okay. Operate, that could be the interview process. I'll talk about that in a second. You integrate, that's your basically fail and learn. You will fail in the interview process. I can't tell you how many people have failed in the interview process. I'll come back to interview in a second. So you're going to fail and you're going to learn, and you're going to redo your interview answers, and you may retilt your resume. But don't go crazy on your resume. The biggest mistake I see clients making, or one of the biggest mistakes I see clients making, is they tweak the resume and make sure that perfect word is there. But what they don't realize is they should be doing more networking than tweaking the resume to the nth degree. So it's okay to change your resume, but everything's time allocation as well, right? So spending time on the most value-added activities, which is what we'll talk about on the next page, which is networking, we're going to come back there. Okay. And then continuous is basically revisit the whole thing. So hopefully you only have to go through this once, but the odds are you'll probably have to go through this loop multiple times. Let's just pause on interview here for a second. So here's the dirty little secret, or the dirty little secrets about interviewing. I would say that if I had to estimate, 50 to 75% of the interviews you will go on, you're simply being used by the company for diversity and inclusion. Unfortunately, if you're not white. 50 to 75% of the interviews are fake because they basically need a body to put down in their records that they interviewed a body, because they have to report basically all of their interviews or their HR statistics to the government. So the government has all these mandates to say, hey, if you got a job, yes, you can offer it internally, but you also have to offer it externally. Well, if about half the employers out there already know who they want to hire because they've identified an internal candidate, well, guess what? You're being used for the interview. Okay. Now, do you know that ahead of time? Probably not. Okay. That's just a way of saying every other interview you go to is fake. So you have to do multiple interviews, and hopefully you get to a real one. So the first thing about interviewing is it's a horribly fake process. Okay, but two pieces of advice on interviewing. I guess if I can break it down to two. When it comes to interviewing, know the company. Know the company well. When I used to work at Merrill Lynch and I interviewed people that were coming out of college that were looking at investment banking, pardon me, Spindrift, my choice of drink, but again, I don't get paid by them to do that. I just happen to like it. It's available at Trader Joe's for $5.99 for eight cans. So what was I saying? Interviewing, know the company. So I was at Merrill Lynch. The first thing I would ask the candidates is, how are we different than Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan? And they would stumble on that, and they knew they couldn't answer the question. And then I concluded the interview about 15 minutes. And then I said, I just concluded the interview. I didn't tell them they didn't get it. So I can't tell you how many clients, or before they become clients, go into the interview process not knowing the company. You got to take a look at the website. If they're public, you got to read some of the publications. You at least got to read their annual report. So the biggest problem I see is that people don't know. The other problem I find with the interview is that people make one or two mistakes. Oh, I actually skipped over that. Okay. Okay. So the second biggest mistake people make in the interview process is they're either less than one or greater than two. Okay. What does that mean in plain English? Your answers in an interview should be between 1 and 2 minutes. Again, I don't know in the medical field, or if you want to be a clown, whether that's the right number, but from the majority of industries out there, you want to be between 1 and 2 minutes. If you're less than 1 minute, you probably didn't give an example. You really have to give examples. Why? Because an example shows what you did. So let me give an example of an example. I took my kids to Central Park and got them some ice cream, and they were happy. Okay, I took my kids to Central Park, ice cream, and they were happy. That's kind of flat. It's kind of boring. So I also said that in about 20 seconds. Now I'm not going to go through a minute and a half interview answer, but contrast that with, I took my 3 kids, Bob, Mike, and Bill, to Central Park, to Hayden Planetarium. We took the subway system, what the kids really enjoyed. We went to the planetarium for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour. That's all I could say. Went to the jungle gym right outside the planetarium. We stopped off at an ice cream cart, and Bobby liked the ice cream with the fudge on top. My daughter Jane really liked the ice cream with the swirl built in. And my other son is a health nut, so he didn't want to have any ice cream. At the end of the day, we took the subway back home. The kids gushed to my wife that they had the best day in the world. Okay, now the first answer was flat and too short. The second answer, I would have stretched out to a minute and a half if this were real. So you got to be between a minute and 2 minutes. If you're less than a minute, you're probably not telling a story. You're probably not giving an example. Now, don't do the opposite. Don't do over 2 minutes. If you're over 2 minutes, you're probably blabbing. And like I said before, that my brother taught me, anything you say can and will be used against you in court. So if you're more than 2 minutes, you may be giving too many examples. Maybe just giving too much bullshit the other person doesn't want to hear about. You may be just droning on. So keep your interview answers between 1 and 2 minutes. That's really the sweet spot.